if you knew you were enough? What would your life look like? What would love look like? This is the Enough Factor broadcast, where we're redefining what makes you enough in life and in love. Now here's your host, Suzette Birnall.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Enough Factor podcast. My name is Suzette Birnall. I'm your life coach and I'm your relationship solutionist that has one goal, and it is to amplify what I've identified as 3 critical factors of your enoughness. And they are your voice, your value, and your vision. For I have found after these years of talking with and coaching and counseling and consulting with women about their relationships, usually the issues that they have involve either one or more of those 3 critical factors. Either they've lost their voice, either they don't know their value, or somehow or another, they've gotten blinded to their enoughness, meaning their vision is compromised. And so each week I endeavor to help you to get clearer in your vision, to find your voice, and to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you have value, you are worth it, and you are worthy. Last week was the first episode of season 4. And wow, what a phenomenal episode it was, because I laid the groundwork in how this season is going to be different from the previous ones. I'm going to be a little bit more vulnerable and more vocal about how I navigated from failed attempts at relationships to finding the love of my life. They say the greatest love of all is learning to love yourself. But I think a real second to that is learning to love your relationship self. Because many times who we are when we're not in a relationship is very, very different than who we become in romantic relationships. And I promised that I would help you navigate these shark-infested relationship waters by sharing insights that helped me. I promised I was going to take you behind the scene of my relationship journey. I told you I promised I was going to tell you how I navigated from loneliness and suffering to great love. I told you that I was going to tell you what kept me in a cycle of self-betrayal and mistrust and how I got out. I told you I was going to share with you how to stop your bad experiences, your bad experience of relationships, and to help you discover what truly makes you enough. And so my first installment on delivering on what I promised is to talk about something very, very key. Your no. Owning your no. I've lived long enough, and I think you have too, to know that if you don't protect your no, people will try very, very hard to get you to say yes to them. And if your no is not founded on something really meaningful to you, you can be seduced into a yes. Even if you don't realize that's what's happening. Isn't that what happens when you lose yourself in a relationship? You start out fine. You start out on a high. But the longer you're in that relationship, the more your voice gets compromised. 3 words that always will cause you to compromise on your no. And you know what those 3 words are? I don't know. When you say, I don't know, everything that you said that was valid, that was relevant to your clarity, you erase all of that out of your mind and you stay in confusion. People who don't own their no end up confused. They'll talk to you about what's going on. They'll tell you what they are feeling, what they're thinking, what doesn't make sense. They'll tell you what he's doing, what he said, how it's different than what they're thinking. And then they'll say, I don't know. Because what he's doing has more prominence in her thoughts and in her mind, and she can't make sense of it. She's on the side of, I don't know. She's on the side of being confused, frustrated, and it second guesses what she thinks is true, what she senses. And so I felt like it was very important to talk about owning your no. And even though I don't want to go all the way back to when you were a child and what happened and maybe your father wasn't present and all that, I don't want to go that far back. But I do want to talk about something that can be very cultural. And I don't mean racially cultural, but is the culture that we as women live in. And it's a culture of patriarchy. Men choose. You try to make yourself attractive so you can be chosen. And I think that even in this 21st century where women are running companies, running families, where women keep things together, hold things together, are a rock for their children and their spouses, where women are so strong and resilient, where they can take a licking and keep on ticking. Even in this day and time, there's still this saturation in everything relational to wait for a man. Wait for him to pick you. Wait for him to define a relationship. Wait for him to make up his mind whether he wants to be exclusive or not. Wait for him to propose. Wait for him to call first. Wait for him to ask for your number. Wait for him to make the first move. There are even some of you who haven't gotten closure on what happened in your last relationship because some part of you is still waiting for him to tell you why he left you, why he cheated on you, why he was calling you and you thought you all were doing well. And all of a sudden he's missing in action and you don't understand what happened. Many of us automatically look at ourselves and say, what did I do wrong? And when you don't have an answer to that question, you can't move on. You can't have closure. And I think this is very key, being raised in a world that caters to men, that seeks the approval of men, that leaves it up to the man to determine whether you're good enough, attractive enough for him to want you. I see 2 things that I want to really center around. There are more, but lest this episode should get too long, I just want to center on 2. I think because we are male approval oriented, our no gets compromised because our need for his attention is more important. Even as a little girl, I wanted a husband. I wanted a handsome prince who was going to rescue me from loneliness and give me a sense of belonging. But the reason that I compromised my no was because there was a wound in my self-esteem that was stronger. So if a man paid attention to me in a way that hollow hunger inside of me needed, I would rationalize to myself, going against the very thing that I said I wanted, and I would accept what he gave me. I didn't want to be a friends with benefits. I didn't want to be a side chick. I didn't want to be the other woman. But rather than risk going back to the loneliness that I felt before he started paying attention to me, I would rationalize to myself, accepting less than what I really wanted. And then hoping that if I loved him right, if I showed him I was different, that he would choose me over whoever else or whatever else had his attention. That became my job, to earn my way into what I really wanted. I really wanted to be his woman, his number one, his wife, and for it to be respected. I wanted to be her. And so the bargain I guess I made with myself was to try to convince him that I was worthy, to not be someone he met or called in the middle of the night, to not be a hotel room in another part of town, to not be a knock on the door when he could get away, but to be his woman. Because I placed more priority on the attention I got from him, I lost integrity with myself. I betrayed myself, thinking that having him would make it worth it. Another thing that I saw was premature submission. I go into more detail about premature submission in my Doing Love Differently program, but I just wanted to give you a little bit. I think especially the religious culture, again, where men are viewed as head of the house, leader. You hear things like wives submit to your husbands, that kind of thing. You hear it preached, you read it. I think because of that kind of conditioning, that we subconsciously submit to the will of a man before he's even earned it, right? And the way that conditioning can show up is that waiting to see, instead of asserting who you are, what you believe, what your values are, what your dreams are, what you look forward to, what makes you you. Instead of being free and standing in your authentic power as a woman, you take on the passive position of waiting to see. Operative word, waiting. And when you take on a posture of waiting, who has all the power? The person you're waiting on has all the power. You're giving somebody you might have just met, whether it was online or whether a friend introduced you or whether you happen to be at the same place at the same time, you're still waiting on him to approve of you enough to make the next move, for him to want you enough to pursue, to ask you. And even women who run companies, even women who are busy, even women who are leaders, I've seen them take a back seat waiting. She'll change her schedule to get together with him when normally she is not available. Normally she can't do it, but she will make time just because she finds the man attractive. That's it. She will say yes to his invitation, inconvenience herself to be able to meet him where he wants to meet her. Premature submission. And I know for some people listening, sex is not as important or not as pivotal in their relationship. But for those of you where it is, that premature submission, where you get seduced into becoming sexual too fast in a relationship, or become sexual in a relationship that has not been defined. And then after you've given your body, now you want to know, where are things going? What does this mean? What's next? How do you feel about me? What's our future look like? What are your intentions? But you've given away all the goods. And when that would happen to me, I felt like I had betrayed myself unless I could get him to want a relationship with me. If the only thing he pursued with me was sex, and I was giving into that because I wanted him and I didn't want to lose him, then to make me not feel like I had been played or that I played myself, I had to try to convince him to be in a relationship with me. And that's when the games began. If I could get him to say, well, yeah, I do want a relationship one day, bingo. Or if he said, well, I'd do it for the right woman, bingo. That gave me something to work toward. Okay, there's a chance. If I could show him that I was a good woman, that I wasn't just a sex buddy, but that I was wife material. I was the kind of woman that he could take home to his mother and be proud. I could be the mother of his children. I took on the responsibility, because if I could not change his mind, then that means I betrayed myself once again and have nothing to show for it. So what helped me to stop doing those things was connecting with what meant more. What meant more to me than getting his attention? What meant more to me? Now, for you, it may be something different, but in order for there to be change, you have to connect with what means more. Your no has to be tethered to something more meaningful, something more important. It isn't something that oftentimes you can access by yourself. You have to dig deeper than wanting a man, figuring out what he wants, what he needs, what his behavior is saying. Your no can't be tethered to that. Your no has to be tethered to something deep inside of you. Why does his behavior or his opinion mean so much? That needs him to behave a certain way in order for you to feel like you're worthy. Where is that worthiness and value inside of you, waiting for you to connect with it? Where is that source of it inside of you that's waiting for you to stop making him your focus? Because I've been coaching for many years, and I have yet to coach anyone where the validation that that their souls was really seeking could be met externally. Because even if you get the man, if you don't know why you're enough, you're going to always be worried that you're going to lose him. So that's enough for today. I hope I have made a very significant case for how powerful your no is and how it has to be founded on something that's rock solid and unshakable. That's what owning your no means. It means you cannot be talked out of it because it's attached to something in you that is unshakable. It isn't just a want. It is essential to your thriving. It's your air. When your no is attached to the very air you breathe, essential to keeping you alive spiritually, emotionally, mentally, when you realize how important that is to you, then and only then can you not be talked out of it. Your intentions toward that, your commitment to it, has to become more important to you than winning the affections of anybody. As I mentioned earlier, it takes help for you to do that kind of deep work. It takes somebody who can point out, this will keep you stuck in a cycle. This thinking, this will keep you stuck, and offer you another way. That's what relationship coaching did for me. That's what I do for those that I coach. It's to help them make sense of what's going on and show them the subtle ways that they compromise on their no. As I said on last week's episode, I'm your GPS. And while this episode gives you a lot about the landscape that you're navigating, but you still need a guide to do the deeper work, I invite you to a free consultation where we can look at your specific areas of struggle and see what I can offer you to help you to access the deeper parts of you that's just waiting for you to find it. If I'm talking to you, then go over to my website, SuzetteSolutions.com. And if you scroll to the bottom, it gives you my email address, and it also gives you the link to my calendar. Email me, free consultation, you decide. But reach out. Reach out. You don't have to stay in the situation that you're in. You don't have to figure it out on your own. It doesn't make you weak if you need help. That's a strength. To realize that you need help is a strength. Own your no. Connect with me. And until next time, just in case no one has told you, I want you to know that you are worthy, you are worth it, you are more than enough. Bye then.
You have just listened to the Enough Factor podcast with your host, Suzette Vernon. To get notified of new episodes or to dig deeper into today's topic, become a subscriber. And while you're at it, tell us how we're doing and what topics you're interested in. We appreciate your feedback and your reviews. Until next time, remember, you are worthy, you are worth it, you are enough.